helpless until we cried to God and said, if these ones have been placed as collateral, they must go free. And Mesha, king of Moab, was a shipmaster and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with the wool. Verse 5. But it came to pass when Ahab was dead that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. What are we saying? This one used a human. This one did not just use a human sacrifice. It was using animals for that sacrifice, and it kept that relationship going until the king died. There are certain sacrifices, certain rituals. Why do men in our days, in spite of the fact that a lot of teachings are going on about redemption, I ask you, why are men doing sacrifice in our days? Why do governors go for sacrifice? Why are we having people doing money rituals? If we assume that these things are not working, why are money time to time young guys being pushed out of cars and they have finished their destiny? They've taken some, some are running mad. Why is ritual sacrifice on the increase? Election is coming now, and one of the things we are told as leaders is that we should be very careful that people will start going amiss. Why is sacrifice? Why do we find certain people on the ground? Eyes have been taken away, breasts have been taken away. What are they using those parts to do? There are places where people have been butchered, not because they want to eat them. They want to use them for sacrifice. They want to use them for ritual. What is behind burying people and burying objects in business? Some years ago, a young man came for prayer here, and I had to ask him one or two questions, because he said to me, see, everything I have done in this business is not working. He has worked with his for years. They have this pattern where you serve for 7 years. After 7 years, he served for over 10 years. He stayed extra years serving. But he also noticed some of the people who serve his master refused to go and open their own shop. They still stayed with him. Wanted to start his own business. In fact, he has served the man for 10 years. Others have served for 7 years. There are others who have served for 12 years. They refused to go. So he opened his shop, and then he wasn't selling. When he was with his master, he was the highest sales rep there. He says some days he sells over 1 million for his master. Over 1 million in a day. Now he has moved to go and start his own business. He's not selling. What brought him for prayer was that in a whole week, he has not sold up to 10,000. Somebody that used to sell 1 million in a day. So he came for prayer and he said, if I can pray for him. But as I was praying for him, there were certain signals and messages that were coming. I said, go and ask those people who refused to go why they have refused to leave their master, number one. Number two, where is the location of your shop? Because I told him I was going to come into the shop to pray. Now, sometimes a lot of Christians have no deep understanding about how this bloodline flows. You know what the young man did? His Oga shop is here. He put his own shop at the end of the street. Why? Do you know why he placed his shop like that? Why? Why? Because when he was selling for his Oga, he was the highest person selling. Of all the boys they have, he says 1 million, 2 million in a day. Now he assumed that if he places his shop near his Oga shop, Is it not the same people that are coming to buy the Oga? Well, Mr. Odibo will understand how this thing wrong. Is it not the same people? It is assumed that those people will now, instead of going to the Oga, they will be coming where? To his shop. The customers will divert. In his presence, customers refuse to come. Even some of the people he will be signaling them like this. They will not come on the same lane. So I say, go and ask some of your colleagues. Maybe there are things they are not telling you. How can you be selling 1 million, 2 million a day for your Oga? Then you have opened shop in the same place and you are not selling. In fact, sometimes a whole week he has not sold 5,000. So he went to meet some of his colleagues, and one of his colleagues was making fun of him. He said, "You people, this born again, born again." He said, "Me too, they go church." And then they reminded him, in this town, he said, "Do you know the things Oga bury for that shop?" One that was like the old, they say, "Do you know what Oga has buried in that shop? We saw the things that he buried. He's still burying till tomorrow. And you don't put your shop on this same street." They were telling him what they didn't tell him before. He said, "You didn't find another state to go and establish business. The same state where your guy is, the same street where your master is. You want to prosper." He said, "Oh, yeah, now." I'm telling you, within that 1 year he was on that battle, he died. It's not only the shop that died, himself died. He died on that battle. He died. And before he died, he suffered. And the man, he's still doing business. So, and I can't tell you the name of the man. If I describe the man too much, Mr. Odibo will know. So I refuse. If you know, I didn't say anything. Sir, these are billionaires. He's going to compete with him because he too now is free, and his Oga gave him money, like almost 3 million he gave him to go and buy goods. Nothing came out from that money. Nothing. Because when you train after you settle, his friend said he shouldn't have stayed on the same lane, that he should have gone to another state or go somewhere else. That is Oga mark him as an enemy. He wants to compete with the same customer. That's why you must build capacity. Some anointing, some things only work in an environment. Do you notice that 1 or 2 people Jesus wanted to pray for, he carried them out of the city? That Jesus wanted to pray for a blind man. He said, "Come, follow me." He took him out of the city. In this environment, the environment that some people have conquered, they are dominating that place. If you want to compete with them, you must break the stronghold that is over the place, or the business will go up and start nosediving. So we have all these experiences if we don't know what has been done. Now in Joshua chapter 6 verse 26, this is another case study, and that's why we must finish what we are doing and spend some time praying for certain family members today, because certain things stop at some family member, some things stop on some children. It doesn't stop on all. Everybody is not a target. Certain people are targets, and if you don't pray for them, I tell you, it's going to be terrible. From 26, let's read from 25. Joshua chapter 6 verse 25. Joshua chapter 6 verse 25. And Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, and her father's household, and all that she had, and she dwelt in Israel even unto this day, because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out of Jericho. The bloodline, one person, everybody preserved. And Joshua adjured them at that time, saying, "Cursed be the man." Who is the man We don't know. But cursed be that man before the Lord that will rise up and build this city called Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in what? Not everybody. He shall lay the foundation thereof in what? And then his youngest son will he use to set up what? The gate. And there is no problem about that, 27. Because nobody is building anything. So the Lord with Joshua and his fame noised throughout all the country. Verse 28. And then they continued like that. Now, do you know that one day, one king who didn't make any inquiry just started that foundation? And what happened to his first son? He died. There are people that are placed like a bet, or they are placed like a collateral in the family, and they themselves don't know it. Certain things are repeating themselves, certain things are happening, and they can't explain why. We don't have a choice but to keep praying. Jesus says, pray at all seasons. No matter your weakness, pray. Firstborn, secondborn. So you see them in the Bible. In Judges chapter 11, Jephthah was another man who had a pattern for winning battle. And he went out to fight the war. Judges chapter 11 from verse 29. And then he made a vow. In his vow, a family member became a collateral without even Jephthah knowing that he has brought and given a family member as a collateral. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, and he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mizpeh of Gilead, and from Mizpeh of Gilead he passed over unto the children of Ammon. Verse 30. And Jephthah vowed a vow unto the Lord and said, if thou shalt without faith deliver the children of Ammon into my hands. Verse 31. Then it shall be that whatsoever cometh forth of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the children of Ammon shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it for a burnt offering. So he has placed a collateral without even knowing the magnitude of that collateral. Verse 32. So Jephthah passed over unto the children of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hands. Verse 53. Verse 3, okay, 33. And he smote them from Ariel, even till thou come to Minit, even the 20th cities, magnitude of that victory, unto the plain of the vineyard with a great slaughter. Thus the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. Verse 34. And Jephthah came to Mizpeh unto his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances, and she was his only child. Beside her, he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to pass when he saw her that he rent his clothes and said, ah, is my daughter. And he said, you have brought me very low. You are one of them that trouble me. I have opened my mouth unto the Lord. I cannot go back. That took the life of that daughter. That if that daughter was even married, and it was the wife, she was the wife of somebody, she will still go. Because somebody made a pronouncement that stayed and was not cancelled. So you will understand when Paul was speaking to the Ephesus church, because Ephesus have a lot of demons. He said, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness in the high places. They are principalities. Paul was talking about principalities. Paul was talking about